Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon and looked out at the strange world below. The planet Zarian Prime looked like a giant green and purple marble floating in space. Weird crystal towers grew from the ground, like frozen lightning bolts. This was his first time seeing an alien world, and it made his stomach feel funny. "Commander, we're getting a signal from the planet," said Lieutenant Amy Chun from her station. She was the best communications officer Jake had ever worked with. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as strange sounds filled the bridge. "Put it through the translator," Jake said. He straightened his uniform and tried to look calm. This meeting could change everything between humans and the Zirathi people. Earth had been looking for new allies ever since they discovered faster-than-light travel. 5 years ago, the alien voice came through the speakers, sounding like a snake trying to talk. "Human vessel, you may land at the Crystal City. High Venom Keeper Sareth will meet with you. Do not bring weapons. Do not touch anything without permission. Do not refuse our sacred tests." Jake nodded to Amy, who sent back their acceptance. As the ship descended through the purple clouds, Dr. Lisa Parker joined him on the bridge. She was the smartest person Jake knew about alien life forms. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, and she carried a thick tablet full of research notes. "Commander, I need to warn you again about the Zirathi," Lisa said, her voice serious. "They use poison creatures for everything. Their pets, their guards, their weapons, even their religious ceremonies. Some of their venom beasts can kill an elephant with one bite." Ambassador Kevin Brooks walked up to them. He was a tall man with gray hair who had done many diplomatic missions before, but he had never dealt with aliens who kept deadly poison animals as house pets. "How dangerous are we talking about?" Kevin asked, loosening his tie. The air inside the ship felt thick and warm. Lisa looked at her tablet and shook her head. "Very dangerous. The Zirathi have been testing other alien species for hundreds of years. The Corvani Imperium tried to make friends with them 20 years ago. 3 of their best soldiers died just from touching the wrong door handle. Jake felt his crew watching him. They were all scared, but they were trying not to show it. The ship landed with a soft bump, and the engines went quiet. Through the windows, they could see tall crystal buildings that seemed to glow from inside. "Remember the plan," Jake said to his team. "We stay together. We don't touch anything. We follow their rules exactly. Earth is counting on us to make this work." The airlock opened with a hiss, and warm, sweet-smelling air filled the ship. It smelled like flowers and something else Jake couldn't identify. They walked down the ramp onto a platform made of smooth, purple stone. The Zirathi who met them looked like giant lizards walking on 2 legs. They were 7 feet tall with green and gold scales that sparkled in the light. Their eyes were yellow with black slits like snake eyes. Each one wore colorful robes and carried a small cage with something moving inside. "Welcome, humans," said the largest Zirathi. His voice sounded like gravel mixed with honey. "I am High Venom Keeper Sareth. You have traveled far to speak with us." Jake stepped forward and bowed slightly, the way Lisa had taught him. "Thank you for meeting with us, High Venom Keeper. I am Commander Jake Sullivan. This is Ambassador Kevin Brooks and Dr. Lisa Parker." Sareth's yellow eyes studied each human carefully. Behind him, 6 other Zirathi stood in a line, all holding their small cages. Jake could hear scratching and hissing sounds coming from inside the cages. "Before we can talk business, you must prove you are worthy," Sareth said. "This is our way for thousands of years. You must show courage in the face of death." Lisa stepped closer to Jake and whispered, "This is what I was worried about. They're going to want us to get close to their venom creatures." Sareth led them into a huge crystal building. The walls were see-through, and Jake could see more Zirathi watching them from other levels. The floor was made of the same purple stone, but it had patterns that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them. They entered a round room with a high ceiling. In the center was a raised platform with a golden cage on top. Inside the cage, something black and fast was moving back and forth. The other Zirathi formed a circle around the platform, still holding their smaller cages. "This is a shadow viper," Sareth said, pointing at the golden cage. "Its bite brings death in less than 5 minutes. The pain is beyond description. Every species we have tested has died from its venom." Kevin stepped back, his face going pale. "High Venom Keeper, surely there's another way to prove our worthiness? Perhaps a test of knowledge or skill." Sareth's eyes narrowed, and the other Zirathi made hissing sounds. "You refuse our sacred trial? This is a great insult to our people. No coward may speak with the High Venom Keeper." Jake saw the meeting falling apart before it even started. Earth needed these allies. The Zirathi controlled important trade routes and had knowledge about parts of the galaxy humans had never seen. If this failed, it might be years before they got another chance. "I'll do it," Jake said, stepping toward the platform. "Commander, no." Lisa grabbed his arm. "You don't understand. This isn't like Earth snakes. Zirathi venom is completely different. It attacks the nervous system and breaks down blood cells. There's no antidote." Jake looked at his team. Kevin was shaking his head, and Amy had tears in her eyes. But Jake knew what he had to do. He was the leader, and leaders protected their people. "High Venom Keeper," Jake said, walking to the golden cage. "I accept your trial?" Sareth seemed surprised. His head tilted to one side like a curious bird. "You understand what this means, human? The Shadow Viper has never failed to kill. Your death will be quick, but very painful." "I understand," Jake said. He rolled up his sleeve and put his arm near the cage. The Shadow Viper was about 3 feet long and completely black except for silver markings on its head. It moved like liquid darkness, and its eyes were bright red. When it saw Jake's arm, it coiled up and prepared to strike. "Open the cage," Jake said. Sareth pressed a button, and a small door opened in the side of the golden cage. The Shadow Viper shot out like an arrow and sank its fangs deep into Jake's forearm. Its bite felt like 2 hot needles going into his skin. The Zirathi all stepped back, expecting Jake to fall to the ground screaming. Lisa had her medical scanner ready to record his final moments for Science. Jake looked down at the bite marks on his arm. 2 small holes were bleeding a little, and the area around them felt warm and tingly. It reminded him of the time he had sat wrong on a park bench, and his leg fell asleep. "Huh," Jake said, examining the bite more closely. "That's a little tingly." He rolled his sleeve up higher to get a better look. The Shadow Viper had let go and was slithering back toward its cage. Jake could feel the tingling sensation spreading up his arm, but it wasn't painful. It was just strange, like when the dentist used numbing medicine. "Kind of like when my foot falls asleep after sitting too long," Jake said with a small laugh. The room went completely silent. Every Zirathi was staring at Jake with their mouths open. Sareth's yellow eyes were wider than dinner plates. Even the other venom creatures in their cages had stopped making noise. Lisa was scanning Jake frantically with her medical equipment. "Commander, how do you feel? Are you in pain? Dizzy? Nauseous?" "I feel fine," Jake said, poking at the bite marks. "It's just tingly, like a mild itch you can't quite scratch." Kevin was staring at Jake like he had grown a second head. "Jake, you should be dead right now. That thing just pumped enough poison into you to kill a horse." Jake shrugged and pulled his sleeve back down. "Well, I'm not dead. Can we get on with the meeting now? We have a lot to discuss." The High Venom. Keeper Sareth slowly walked closer to Jake, his head moving from side to side like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "This is impossible. The Shadow Viper's venom has killed every creature we have ever tested. Corvani warriors, Zephyrian traders, crystalline scouts, all dead within minutes. Maybe humans are just different, Jake said. He sat down in one of the crystal chairs arranged around the room. Now, about that trade agreement we wanted to discuss. High Venom Keeper Sereth could not stop staring at Jake Sullivan. The human sat in the crystal chair like nothing had happened. His arm showed 2 small bite marks, but he was not screaming or dying or even sweating. This had never happened. Before, in all the years, Sereth had been testing other species. "This cannot be real," Sereth said, his voice shaking. "You must be using some kind of human technology. A medical device or protective drug." Dr. Lisa Parker looked up from her scanner and shook her head. "No technology. High Venom Keeper. I'm reading the venom in his system right now. It's definitely there, but his body is treating it like a minor irritation." The other Zirathi in the room began making low hissing sounds. They spoke to each other in their own language, voices rising and falling like wind through trees. Jake could not understand the words, but he could tell they were very excited about something. "What are they saying?" Ambassador Kevin Brooks asked. He was still pale and kept looking at Jake like he expected him to fall over at any moment. Sereth closed his yellow eyes for a long moment, then opened them again. "They are saying you might be the ones from the old stories. The untouchable ones who laugh at death itself." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Old stories?" "Legends from before our people reached the stars," Sereth explained. "Tales of beings who could walk through poison clouds and drink liquid venom like water. We always thought they were just stories to frighten children." Lisa's scanner beeped, and she looked at the results with wide eyes. "Commander, this is incredible. Your immune system is breaking down the venom like it's a common virus. Your white blood cells are actually using parts of it to make themselves stronger." "Is that good or bad?" Jake asked. "It's impossible," Lisa said. "But yes, it's very good. The venom that should have killed you is actually improving your immune system." Word of what happened spread through the Zirathi city faster than Jake thought possible. Within an hour, crowds of Zirathi had gathered outside the crystal building. They pressed their scaled faces against the see-through walls, trying to get a look at the human who survived a shadow viper bite. Sereth led Jake and his team to a higher floor where they could talk without so many watchers. The room had comfortable chairs and a table made from what looked like solid emerald. Through the crystal walls, Jake could see the entire city spread out below them. "High Venom Keeper," Jake said. "I understand this is unusual, but we really do need to discuss the trade agreement between our peoples." "Trade agreement?" Sereth laughed, a sound like sandpaper on metal. "Human Jake Sullivan, you have done something that changes everything. If your people can survive our most deadly creatures, then you are not just potential trading partners. You could be the most valuable allies in the galaxy." Kevin leaned forward in his chair. "What do you mean?" Sereth walked to a wall panel and pressed several buttons. A holographic map appeared in the air above the table, showing dozens of star systems connected by glowing lines. "This is our territory," Sereth said, pointing to the green areas on the map. "And this," he pointed to large red sections, "belongs to the Corvani Imperium. They have been our enemies for 300 years. "Why are they your enemies?" Jake asked. "Because they fear our venom creatures," Sereth explained. "Their military is based on heavy armor and energy shields. But armor cannot stop venom gas, and shields cannot block poison darts. We are the only thing keeping them from conquering this entire sector of space." Lisa studied the map carefully. "So the Corvani would be very interested to know that humans can resist your biological weapons." "Very interested," Sereth agreed, "and very afraid." As if summoned by their conversation, Lieutenant Amy Chun's voice came through Jake's communicator. "Commander, we're picking up multiple ships entering the system. They're not broadcasting identification signals. On our way, Jake said, standing up quickly. They hurried back to the USS Horizon, where Amy was working frantically at her station. The main screen showed 6 large ships with dark hulls and sharp edges. They looked like metal sharks swimming through space. Corvani design, Lisa said immediately. Heavy cruisers, probably scouting ships. How did they get here so fast? Kevin asked. Amy turned in her chair. Commander, I've been monitoring communication signals. It looks like the Zirathi use some kind of biological network system. When news of your immunity spread through their city, it was automatically transmitted to other Zirathi worlds. The Corvani must have been listening. Jake felt a cold knot form in his stomach. So they know what happened. They know, Sareth said from behind them. The High Venom Keeper had followed them to the ship and was looking at the screen with obvious worry. The Corvani have spies everywhere. They will want to capture you and study how human immunity works. Can they do that? Jake asked. There. Scientists are very skilled at taking things apart, Sarah said grimly. The communication system crackled to life, and a harsh voice filled the bridge. Human vessel, this is Captain Lisa Woods of the Corvani Scout Fleet. You will surrender immediately for processing and interrogation. Jake looked at his crew. Amy was scared, but ready to fight. Kevin looked like he wanted to hide under his chair. Lisa was already working on her medical equipment, probably trying to figure out how to help if things went bad. This is Commander Jake Sullivan of the USS Horizon, Jake said into the communicator. We are on a peaceful diplomatic mission. We have no intention of surrendering to anyone. Captain Wood's laughter sounded like breaking glass. Peaceful? You have just demonstrated a biological immunity that threatens the balance of power in this galaxy. That makes you a weapon, not a diplomat. We're not weapons, Jake said firmly. We're explorers trying to make friends. Friends? Woods laughed again. The Corvani Imperium does not need friends. We need to make sure threats like you are eliminated before they can spread. Sareth stepped closer to the communication panel. Captain Woods, the human is under the protection of the Zirathi people. If you attack him, you attack us. Empty threats, Snakeface, Woods replied. Your poison creatures cannot reach us in space. And once we capture the human, we will learn how to protect ourselves from your venom, just like he did. Jake could see more ships appearing on the scanner. The 6 scout vessels were just the beginning. A whole fleet was coming through the jump point at the edge of the system. High Venom Keeper, Jake said quietly. Do your people have any ships that can fight? Sareth hissed softly. Some, but not many, and not as powerful as Corvani warships. We have always relied on our planet-based defenses and our alliance with other species who fear the Corvani. What other species? Kevin asked. The Zephyrian Trade Consortium controls the shipping lanes in this sector, Sareth explained. The Crystalline Collective mines rare minerals in the nearby nebula. Both have been attacked by Corvani raiders in the past. If they knew the Corvani were planning a major offensive, they might help us. Lisa looked up from her medical scanner. Commander, I've been thinking about your immunity. If it works on Zirathi venom, it might work on other biological weapons too. The Corvani use some kind of nerve gas in their boarding operations. So I might be able to walk through their attacks without being hurt, Jake asked. Possibly. But we won't know for sure until we test it. And I really don't want to test it. Amy turned from her station with urgent news. Commander, I'm reading 24 Corvani ships now, and more coming. They're surrounding the planet. Also, I'm getting signals from other parts of the galaxy. Word about what happened here is spreading fast. Jake sat down in his command chair and tried to think. In the space of a few hours, he had gone from trying to make a simple trade deal to being the center of what looked like a major galactic conflict. Sareth, he said finally, If we help you fight the Corvani, will your people share their knowledge with humans? Not just about venom creatures, but about this part of the galaxy? The High Venom Keeper's yellow eyes gleamed. If you help us defeat the Corvani threat, humans will be welcome in Zerathi space forever. We will share everything we know about. The dangerous worlds beyond the rim, the places where poison clouds hide ancient treasures. Ancient treasures? Kevin asked, perking up for the first time since the crisis began. Cities built by the first species to travel between stars, Sareth explained. Abandoned because the biological weapons they created became too dangerous to control. Places where entire civilizations died from their own poisons, leaving behind technology beyond imagination. Jake felt a thrill of excitement despite the danger they were in. This was why he had joined the space service, to explore strange new worlds and discover incredible things. If humans really were immune to biological weapons, they could go places no other species dared to visit. Amy, send a message to Earth Command, Jake ordered. Tell them we need reinforcements, and tell them why. Also, send our sensor data about my immunity to the Medical Research Division. Yes, sir, Amy said, her fingers flying over the controls. Lisa, I need you to figure out exactly how human immunity works. If we're going to survive this, we need to understand what makes us different. Already working on it, Commander, Lisa replied. Jake looked out at the growing fleet of enemy ships surrounding the planet. Soon, they would have to fight or surrender. But for the first time since the crisis began, he felt confident they could rule. Dr. Lisa Parker had never worked so hard in her life. For 6 hours straight, she studied Jake Sullivan's blood samples while the Corvani fleet grew larger outside. Her small laboratory on the USS Horizon was filled with bubbling test tubes and glowing computer screens. This is incredible, she said to herself for the 10th time. She looked at the latest results and shook her head in amazement. Human blood was doing things that should be impossible. Jake walked into the laboratory, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Any good news? Better than good, Lisa said, taking the coffee gratefully. Jake, do you know why humans are so different from other species? We're stubborn? Jake guessed with a tired smile. Lisa laughed despite their dangerous situation. Well, yes, but that's not what I mean. Look at this. She pointed to a screen showing 2 different blood samples side by side. This is Corvani blood, and this is yours. Jake studied the images. They look pretty different. Very different. The Corvani evolved on a world with almost no dangerous life forms. Clean air, pure water, no venomous animals. Their immune systems never had to deal with toxins, so they're incredibly vulnerable to biological weapons. What about humans? Lisa pulled up another screen showing Earth's history. Humans evolved on a death world, Jake. Earth has more poisonous creatures than any other planet we've discovered. Snakes, spiders, jellyfish, frogs, plants, bacteria, viruses. For millions of years, humans had to survive constant biological attacks. So our immune systems got really good at fighting poisons. More than good, they got creative. Lisa showed him a close-up image of human white blood cells. Look at this. When Zerathi venom enters your system, your immune cells don't just destroy it. They study it, learn from it, and use parts of it to make themselves stronger. Jake whistled softly. That's why I felt tingly instead of dying. Exactly. The tingling was your immune system upgrading itself using alien venom as raw material. You're not just immune to Zerathi poisons now. You're immune to anything similar. High Venom Keeper Sareth entered the laboratory, his yellow eyes bright with excitement. Dr. Parker, may I see these results? Lisa hesitated, then decided to trust him. She showed Sareth the blood analysis data. The Zerathi leader studied the screens carefully, his scaled head tilting from side to side. Remarkable, Sareth said finally. This explains the old legends perfectly. The untouchable ones were not mythical beings. They were humans, visiting our ancestors long ago. Humans visited Zirithi space before? Jake asked. According to our oldest stories, yes. Beings who looked like you, who could drink poison and walk through death clouds. They helped our people fight an ancient enemy, then disappeared into the deep space beyond our borders. Lisa looked up from her computer. How long ago was this? Perhaps 1,000 years, perhaps more. Our early records are not complete. Sareth paused, then added, but there is something else. The legends say the untouchable ones went to the Plague Nebula. Jake had never heard that name before. What's the Plague Nebula? Sareth's expression became serious. A region of space where the first galactic civilization died. Ancient ruins fill an entire star system, but the area is saturated with biological weapons, so deadly that no modern species can survive there for more than minutes. Except humans, Lisa said, understanding immediately. Possibly, Sareth agreed. The nebula contains technology and knowledge beyond imagination. Weapons that could destroy fleets, medical devices that could cure any disease, computers that could predict the future. But it has been forbidden territory for 1,000 years. Their conversation was interrupted by Amy Chun's voice over the ship's communication system. Commander Sullivan to the bridge immediately. The Corvani are doing something new. Jake and his team hurried to the bridge, where Amy was working frantically at her station. The main screen showed the Corvani fleet, but something was different now. Green clouds were spreading out from several of their ships. What is that? Jake asked. Biological weapons, Amy said grimly. They're releasing some kind of gas into the planet's atmosphere. On the screen, they could see the green clouds drifting down toward the Zirithi cities. Where the gas touched the crystal buildings, the structures began to crack and dissolve. They're trying to kill everyone on the planet, Kevin said, his face pale with horror. Sareth hissed angrily. Cowards. They cannot defeat us in honest battle, so they tried to poison us from space. Is your people's immunity good enough to survive that? Jake asked. No, Sareth said sadly. We can resist our own creatures because we evolved with them. But Corvani weapons are designed specifically to kill us. Many will die. Jake watched the green death clouds spreading across the beautiful alien world below. Somewhere down there, millions of Zirithi were probably running for shelter that might not protect them. Amy, how long until the gas covers the whole planet? At current rate of spread, maybe 6 hours, Amy calculated. And how long until our reinforcements arrive from Earth? Amy checked her communications. Earth Command received our message, but the nearest fleet is 3 days away. Jake closed his eyes and thought hard. 3 days was too long. The Zirithi would be dead by then, and the Corvani would have time to bring in even more ships. But maybe there was another way. Sareth, you said there are other species who don't like the Corvani? Yes, the Zephyrian traders and the crystalline miners. But they are not military powers. Their ships are designed for cargo and exploration, not war. What if they didn't have to fight? Jake asked, what if they just had to spread the word? About what the Corvani are doing here. Lisa caught on first. You want to tell the whole galaxy that the Corvani are using biological weapons on civilian populations. Exactly. Most species are probably afraid of biological warfare. If they know the Corvani are willing to use it, they might decide to stop them before they become the next targets. Sareth's eyes gleamed with understanding. A political attack instead of a military one. Very clever, Commander. Amy was all ready, working on the communication system. I can send a broad-spectrum message to every ship and communication relay in this sector. The news will reach hundreds of worlds within hours. Do it, Jake ordered. Include all our sensor data about the biological attack. Make sure everyone knows this isn't a military battle. It's genocide. While Amy sent the message, Jake studied the tactical display. The Corvani had 43 ships now, ranging from small scouts to massive battlecruisers. The USS Horizon was powerful for an exploration vessel, but it couldn't fight a whole fleet. "Commander," Lisa said quietly, "I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work." "I like crazy ideas," Jake said. "What if we went down to the planet's surface? The Corvani gas might not affect you, and you could help coordinate the Zirathi defense from there." Kevin immediately objected. "That's suicide. Even if Jake is immune to their gas, the Corvani will send ground troops with conventional weapons." "Maybe," Lisa said, "but Jake won't be alone. If Zirathi Venom creatures can't hurt him, he could work directly with their most dangerous defenders." Sereth made an excited hissing sound. "Yes, the sacred vaults contain creatures so deadly that even we cannot handle them safely. But if Commander Jake could work with them directly ... What kind of creatures?" Jake asked, though he was pretty sure he didn't want to know the answer. "Void crawlers that melt metal with their breath. Crimson. Stalkers that hunt by following the scent of fear. Death maws large enough to swallow a tank." Sareth's yellow eyes glowed brighter. With such allies, even Corvani ground troops would not dare to land. Jake felt that familiar tingling sensation in his arm where the shadow viper had bitten him. But now he understood what it meant. His immune system was still upgrading itself, still learning from the alien venom. Maybe he really could survive exposure to creatures that would kill anyone else. "All right," he said finally, "but I want Lisa and a medical team standing by. If I start dying, I want someone around who can study the process." "Very comforting, Commander," Kevin said dryly. Amy looked up from her station with good news. "The message is sent, and we're already getting responses. The Zephyrian Consortium is expressing deep concern about Corvani aggression. The Crystalline Collective is calling for an immediate ceasefire and investigation. More importantly," Amy continued, "I'm reading new ships entering the system. Not Corvani designs. Looks like some of the local species are coming to see what's happening." On the main screen, Jake could see new contacts appearing. Small, fast ships that looked like metal birds. Larger vessels with crystal hulls that sparkled in the starlight. Even some strange, organic-looking ships that seemed to be grown rather than built. "The galaxy is watching now," Sareth said with satisfaction. "The Corvani cannot continue their attack with so many weaknesses." But even as he spoke, more green clouds billowed from the Corvani ships. The death gas was spreading faster, now covering more of the planet's surface. Through the crystal cities below, emergency lights were flashing as the Zirathi tried to evacuate or seal themselves into protected areas. They're not stopping, Jake realized. They must think they can finish the job before anyone can interfere. "Then, we need to get down there now," Lisa said, "before the gas concentration gets too high." Jake nodded and headed for the shuttle bay. As they prepared to descend into a cloud of alien poison gas, he couldn't Asterisk, the shuttle cut through the green poison clouds like a knife through thick soup. Jake Sullivan sat in the pilot's seat, watching the toxic fog swirl around the windows. His hands were steady on the controls, but his heart was beating faster. "And normal. Atmospheric analysis shows the gas concentration is at lethal levels," Dr. Lisa Parker reported from her station behind him. "Any normal person would be dead within 30 seconds of exposure." "Good thing I'm not normal," Jake said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. High Venom Keeper Sereth was secured in a special seat designed for his large frame. "Commander, are you certain about this plan? Even if you survive the gas, the creatures in the sacred vaults have never been controlled by anyone." "We'll figure it out," Jake said. "We have to." Through the green clouds, they could see the crystal city below. Many of the buildings were cracked where the Corvani gas had touched them, but the main structures were still standing. Emergency lights flashed in windows as the Zirathi tried to protect themselves. The shuttle touched down on a landing pad near the center of the city. Jake could see the poison gas swirling around them like a living thing. It was thick enough that visibility was down to maybe 20 feet. "Lisa, you and the medical team stay in the shuttle with the air filters running," Jake ordered. "Sareth and I will go to these sacred vaults." "Jake, wait," Lisa said, grabbing his arm. "Let me take some readings first." She pointed a scanner at him and frowned at the results. "Your immune system is going crazy. It's like it's getting ready for something big. Good or bad crazy? I'm not sure. Your white blood cell count is 3 times higher than normal, and I'm seeing cellular activity I've never seen before." Jake shrugged. Only one way to find out what it means. He put on a basic breathing mask, not because he was worried about the gas, but because he wanted to be able to see clearly. The poison clouds made his eyes water a little, but that was all. The airlock opened, and Jake stepped out into the toxic fog. Immediately, he felt that familiar tingling sensation all over his body. It was stronger than before, like a mild electrical current running through his skin. "How do you feel?" Lisa asked through the communication system. "Tingly," Jake reported. "But good tingly, if that makes sense." Sareth emerged from the shuttle, wearing a full environmental suit. "The sacred vaults are this way, Commander. But I must warn you again, the creatures inside are beyond dangerous." They walked through the empty streets of the Crystal City. The buildings around them groaned and creaked as the Corvani gas ate away at their surfaces. Jake could see Zirathi faces pressed against sealed windows, watching them with wide yellow eyes. "Why aren't they coming out?" Jake asked. "Because they would die instantly," Sareth explained. "The gas is designed to attack Zirathi's cellular structure specifically. It dissolves our scales and poisons our blood." They reached a large building that looked different from the others. Instead of clear crystal, it was made of black stone covered with warning symbols. Heavy metal doors were sealed with locks that looked like they hadn't been opened in years. "This is the main vault," Sareth said, pressing his scaled hand against a scanner. "Inside are the most dangerous creatures our people have ever found or created." The doors opened with a grinding sound, revealing a dark corridor that stretched into the distance. The air inside was thick and warm, and Jake could hear strange sounds echoing from the depths. "How many creatures are in there?" Jake asked. 47 different species," Sareth replied. "Each one deadly enough to kill a dozen normal beings." They walked down the corridor, passing sealed chambers on both sides. Through thick glass windows, Jake could see shapes moving in the darkness. Something with too many legs scuttled across one window. In another chamber, a creature that looked like living shadow pressed itself against the glass. "What's that one?" Jake asked, pointing to a chamber where something was glowing with purple light. "A void crawler," Sareth said nervously. "Its breath can melt through 6 inches of steel in seconds. We have only ever fed it by using mechanical arms from a safe distance." They stopped at a chamber near the end of the corridor. Inside, Jake could see a creature about the size of a large dog, but it moved like liquid metal. Its body seemed to change shape constantly, and it had rows of teeth that sparkled like diamonds. "This is a crimson stalker," Sareth explained. "It hunts by, detecting the chemical signals that fear produces. The more afraid its prey becomes, the faster and stronger it gets." "And you want me to go in there with it?" "If your immunity works on all biological weapons, it should work on the stalker's paralysis venom. And if you are not afraid, it will. Remain calm and controllable." Jake looked at the creature through the glass. It seemed to be looking back at him, tilting its head like a curious cat. "How do I control it?" Zirithi have always used fear and pain to control venom creatures. But if you cannot feel fear or pain from biological attacks, you might be able to communicate with them differently. Outside the building, they could hear the sound of explosions. The Corvani were not just using gas anymore. They were bombing the city. "We need to hurry," Jake said. "How do I get in there?" Sareth pressed several buttons on a control panel, and the chamber door slid open. "Remember, Commander, if this does not work, you will be dead before I can help you." Jake stepped into the chamber. The Crimson Stalker immediately turned toward him, its liquid body flowing into a more aggressive shape. Jake could feel its venom trying to enter his system through his skin, but his immune system absorbed it easily. "Hey there," Jake said softly, the way he used to talk to nervous animals back on Earth. "I'm not here to hurt you." The stalker paused, its head tilting further. It seemed confused that Jake was not becoming afraid or falling over paralyzed. "That's right," Jake continued, slowly extending his hand. "I'm different from the others. I'm not your enemy." The stalker moved closer, sniffing at Jake's hand. Its venom glands were working overtime, pumping toxins into the air, but Jake just felt that pleasant, tingling sensation. Suddenly, something amazing happened. The stalker's aggressive posture relaxed, and it made a sound like a cat purring. It rubbed against Jake's leg like a friendly pet. "Incredible," Sareth whispered from outside the chamber. "It has never done that before." "Can you open the other chambers?" Jake asked. "Are you certain? Some of those creatures are much more dangerous than the stalker." "I'm sure," Jake said, scratching behind what he thought might be the stalker's ears. "If we're going to stop the Corvani, we'll need all the help we can get." Over the next hour, Jake visited chamber after chamber. The void crawler turned out to be shy and gentle once it realized Jake wasn't afraid of its acidic breath. The death maw, a creature the size of a small elephant with jaws that could bite through a tank, became playful and friendly when Jake petted its armored head. Soon, Jake had a small army of venom creatures following him through the corridors. They seemed to understand that he was different from other beings, and they treated him like a pack leader. "This changes everything," Sarah said in amazement. "For 1,000 years, we have used fear to control these creatures. But you use friendship." The building shook as another Corvani bomb exploded nearby. Through the windows, Jake could see dark shapes moving through the poison clouds. Corvani ground troops were landing in the city. "Time to test our new friends," Jake said. They emerged from the sacred vaults, just as the first Corvani soldiers rounded a corner. The aliens wore heavy armor and carried energy weapons. They stopped when they saw Jake walking calmly through the poison gas, followed by creatures that should have killed him instantly. "Impossible," one of the Corvani said through his armors. "Speaker, humans cannot survive in this environment." "Surprise," Jake said cheerfully. The Crimson Stalker flowed forward like living mercury, moving faster than the Corvani could react. Its venom darts pierced their armor seals, and the soldiers collapsed within seconds. The void crawler sprayed acid across a group of Corvani vehicles, melting them into slag. The death maw charged through their defensive line like it was made of paper. Within minutes, the entire Corvani ground force was either dead or retreating in panic. "Commander," Lisa's voice came through his communicator. "I'm reading massive activity in the Corvani fleet. They're preparing to bombard the planet from orbit." "Can they do that with all the other ships watching?" Jake asked. "They might not care about witnesses anymore. You just destroyed their entire ground force with creatures they thought were impossible to control." Jake looked up at the sky, where he could see the dark shapes of Corvani warships through the poison clouds. "Seraph, do any of your creatures work in space?" "No, Commander. They are all adapted for planetary environments." Jake thought for a moment, then smiled. "What about the other vaults? You said this was the main one. Are there others? Sareth's yellow eyes grew wide. There are. But, Commander, the deep vaults contain creatures so dangerous that we have never dared to study them. They are sealed beneath the planet's surface. How dangerous? Legends say some of them are large enough to attack spacecraft. Others can survive in the vacuum of space. But they have been sleeping for thousands of years. The control center for the deep vaults was hidden 3 miles beneath the Crystal City. Jake Sullivan and his strange army of venom creatures made their way through ancient tunnels that had been carved from solid rock thousands of years ago. These passages are older than our written history. High Venom Keeper Sareth explained as they walked. Our ancestors built them to contain things that should never be released. Until now, Jake said, patting the head of the death maw that walked. Beside him, like a loyal dog dot above them, the sounds of the Corvani bombardment grew louder. The crystal buildings were holding up well, but Jake knew they couldn't last forever against orbital weapons. Dr. Lisa Parker's voice crackled through his communicator. Jake, I'm reading some incredible changes in your blood chemistry. Your immune system isn't just adapting anymore. It's evolving. Is that good? Jake asked, ducking as a piece of ceiling fell behind him. I think so. Your white blood cells are developing new structures I've never seen before. It's like they're becoming more than just immune cells. They reached a massive metal door covered in warning symbols from a dozen different alien languages. All of them basically said the same thing. Do not open ever. Beyond this door are the deep sleepers, Sareth said nervously. Creatures so powerful that they could reshape entire worlds. They have been in hibernation for over 10,000 years. How big are we talking? Jake asked. The smallest one is roughly the size of your shuttle. The largest ... Sareth paused. The largest appears to be nearly a mile long. Jake whistled softly. That's a big animal. It is not an animal, Commander. According to our records, it is a star swimmer, a creature that lives in the vacuum of space and feeds on solar radiation. The door required both Sareth's handprint and a voice command in ancient Zerathi. As it slowly ground open, stale air rushed out that made even Jake's enhanced immune system tingle with activity. The chamber beyond was enormous, stretching away into darkness. Jake could see massive shapes suspended in glowing tubes filled with preservation fluid. Some of the shapes were familiar, like giant versions of the creatures he had already befriended. Others were completely alien, defying easy description. How do we wake them up? Jake asked. Sareth led him to a control panel, covered in symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. This is the Master Awakening System. But, Commander, once these creatures are released, there is no way to control them. They will act according to their own nature. That's worked out pretty well so far, Jake said, looking at his collection of friendly venom beasts. He pressed his hand against the control panel. Immediately, the ancient system began scanning him, lights racing, up and down his arm. After a moment, the scanner beeped and displayed text in several languages. What does it say? Jake asked. Sareth read the ancient symbols with amazement. It says you are recognized as an untouchable one, a true friend of the deep. Sleepers. I guess my ancestors really were here before. Jake pressed the activation button. Throughout the vast chamber, the preservation tubes began to drain. Ancient creatures that had slept for millennia began to stir. Eyes opened that were larger than dinner plates. Bodies uncoiled that could wrap around skyscrapers. The first to awaken was something that looked like a massive jellyfish made of living crystal. It flowed out of its tube and immediately approached Jake, its tentacles reaching out to touch him. Gently. Hello, beautiful, Jake said, stroking one of the tentacles. The creature made a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. More creatures emerged from their tubes. a snake-like being the size of a subway train, something that looked like a cross between a spider and a flower with petals that sparkled. Like jewels, a wolf-like creature with 6 legs and fur that seemed to absorb light. All of them approached Jake with curiosity rather than aggression. Soon he was surrounded by ancient beings that could destroy armies, all of them treating him like a long-lost friend. "Incredible," Sareth whispered. "The legends were true. You are their chosen people." The building shook as another Corvani missile struck somewhere above them. The crystal jellyfish made an angry sound and began flowing toward the exit tunnels. "I think they understand what's happening," Jake said. "They want to protect their world." The massive creatures began moving through the tunnels, heading for the surface. Jake and Sareth followed, along with the smaller venom beasts from the upper vaults. When they emerged into the Crystal City, the scene was like something from a nightmare. Half the buildings were damaged or destroyed. The green poison clouds were thicker than ever. Corvani dropships were landing throughout the city, disgorging more soldiers. But the Corvani forces were not prepared for what emerged from the deep vaults. The crystal jellyfish rose into the air, its transparent body glowing with internal light. It spread its tentacles wide and began spinning, creating a whirlwind that sucked the poison gas up and away from the city. The giant snake thing flowed through the streets like liquid lightning, its acidic breath melting through Corvani vehicles and weapons. The 6-legged wolf creature moved faster than anything that large should be able to move, leaping from building to building and attacking dropships in mid-air. But the most impressive sight was yet to come. The ground at the edge of the city began to crack and heave. Something enormous was pushing up from the deep vaults below. Jake watched in amazement as the star swimmer emerged. It was indeed nearly a mile long, with a body that seemed to be made of living starlight, massive fins that could block out the sun, eyes that sparkled like distant galaxies. The star swimmer rose into the sky, passing through the atmosphere like it was swimming through water. It approached the Corvani fleet with graceful, flowing movements. "Commander," Amy Chun's voice came through his communicator. "The Corvani fleet is in full retreat." I've never seen ships move that fast. Jake could understand why. The star swimmer was large enough to swallow their biggest battleship without effort. And it wasn't alone. Other deep vault creatures were emerging all over the planet, taking to the skies and space to chase away the invaders. Within an hour, the Corvani fleet was gone. The poison clouds were clearing as the crystal jellyfish and other creatures worked to clean the atmosphere. The immediate threat was over, but Jake knew this was just the beginning. "Sareth," he said, "you mentioned that humans might have visited the Plague Nebula in the past." "Yes," the High Venom Keeper replied. "The Forbidden region where the first galactic civilization died from their own biological weapons. If these creatures can work in space, and if I can communicate with them, maybe it's time to explore that nebula." Lisa's voice came through his communicator with excitement. "Jake, I've been analyzing the data from today. Your immune system isn't just protecting you anymore. It's actually improving the venom creatures you interact with. You're making them stronger and smarter." "What does that mean?" "It means you might be able to do more than just survive in the Plague Nebula. You might be able to heal it." Jake looked up at the star swimmer, which was now floating peacefully in orbit around the planet. Other deep vault creatures were scattered across the star system, exploring regions of space they hadn't seen for thousands of years. 3 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of a new ship, the USS Explorer, specially designed for biological research missions. Dr. Lisa Parker worked at her expanded laboratory station. High Venom Keeper Sareth served as their guide to dangerous regions of space that they were approaching the edge of the Plague Nebula, a region that had been forbidden to all space travel for over a millennium. Through the view screen, Jake could see clouds of toxic gas that glowed with unnatural colors. Sensors are detecting massive structures inside the nebula, Amy reported from her station. They're huge, Commander. Cities that could house billions of beings. Any signs of life? Jake asked. Hard to tell through all the biological interference. But there's definitely something moving in there. Jake smiled and gave the order he had been waiting months to give. Take us in. As the USS Explorer entered the Plague Nebula, ancient automated defenses tried to flood their ship with deadly toxins. But Jake's enhanced immune system absorbed the attacks easily, and his presence seemed to calm the aggressive bio-weapons not deep in the nebula. They found the ruins of the first galactic civilization, cities that stretched between planets, technology that could reshape matter at the molecular level, medical devices that could cure any disease, and most importantly, they found survivors. The descendants of the original builders had been hiding in sealed chambers for thousands of years, waiting for someone who could survive their ancestors' biological weapons. When Jake walked through their toxic atmosphere breathing normally, they knew their long wait was over. Welcome, untouchable one, their leader said through a translation device. We have been waiting for your people to return. Return? Jake asked. Oh, yes, the alien replied. Humans helped us build this civilization long ago. Then you disappeared into the deep void, promising to come back when we needed you most. Jake looked around at the incredible ancient technology, at the grateful faces of beings who had been trapped by their own weapons for 1,000 years, at the deep vault creatures who had followed him here and were now swimming happily through the toxic clouds.